in classes with me before know me. I'm Lori from Lori's Craft Classes and Lori's Crafty Creations. You can find both of them on Facebook. I do a lot of metal work, so chainmail, working with wire. Just, you know, I kind of like the feel of the metal rather than seed beads, which drive me insane. But I have friends on Boomerang that are teaching seed beads, so you're good. Today we're gonna make a couple of different types of rings, probably 3 or 4. And if I go too fast, just remember I'll be repeating it a couple of times. Like the rose ring that I like to do, I do it 3 times during the hour. So if you miss something the first time, don't worry, you'll get it the second or third time or in the video. Now, the tools that I have today on my station are a metal mandrel, just because I like to hammer a little bit, but it's not even that necessary. Just gonna set this aside. And I have a pair of round nose pliers, 2 pair of flat nose, because I always like to work with 2. A pair of bent nose, just in case. A cutter. A wire straightener. Measuring tape, which, you know me, I don't normally use measuring tapes, but I like to measure for you guys so you can know how big to make things. All right, so let's get started. I'm gonna start with a 20 gauge wire. This is my big guy. I have half a ring sitting on my finger here. It's really strange. And I'm gonna pull off just maybe 9 inches. Yeah, so about that much. And cut. Now the first one we're going to do is what I like to call a freestyle ring. So the first part, just sort of find the center, and I find the center by putting the 2 ends together and then just grabbing it here. Like, I don't measure it, I just grab it. Now with your flat nose pliers, hold it and bend your wire on either side of it. So you have just that little pin, toggle pin shape, okay? Just a little bit. Now I didn't use my wire straightener because this big spool of wire, it comes off of here so straight. So I don't need to. When I'm using this stuff that's all rolled up and gets kinked, I will use my wire straightener. So you'll see how it works. All right, so I have just this shape so far. I want to find on my mandrel, my ring size. I'm gonna make it about a size 7 because it's an adjustable one. And I'm just gonna hold the end, the squared off part, under my thumb and roll this around. Now, if I want to, this is where I grab my hammer and I just hammer it a little bit, not even very much. Hardens the wire a little bit, makes it a little stiffer. Okay, so there's my ring shape. Okay, now what we want to do is the heat of your hands warms the metal. So just run your fingers along these pieces, just gently, and you can see I'm sort of curving it as I'm going. So I'm not trying to curve it over right away. I'm letting the heat of my hands warm up the metal and let it curve around. If I try and force it, I'll get a kink. So just do it slowly. And when you get pretty much straight up, you want to add a bead. Because if you do it too far over, your bead's not going to slide on there. So I'm just using this bin that I have beside me, seeing if any of them fit. Let's see. Oh, this one's really pretty. I'm going to drop that on, okay? And then I'm going to continue. And you'll feel that the wire is much softer now that you've been playing with it. Okay, and I'm just going to continue on. And now I'm going to take my pliers, my round nose pliers. I'm going to take the end. And remember when we do the wire wrap stones, we make all those spirals? So I'm going to do that tiny little loop on the end, grab my flat nose, And I'm going to make a little spiral. And this ring is being designed as I go. They all turn out a little differently. I'm going to do a spiral up. I'm not sure how far I'll do it. I'm just looking, maybe I'll do it about the same size as the stone. That'll probably match nicely. So I'm just rolling. And depending on how big you want your ring. Okay, so what I want to do is have this over like so. So there's my ring so far. I think it's kind of cute. Now we want to do this side. Now you can decide whether you want to go down and around or up and over this one, which is one that I kind of like. So let's make our metal a little softer. And I'm going to come up and over. So you see, I'm just playing with it, making it a little rounder each time I pull it. And then when I get it to where I want it, you see I went a little faster on this one. It has a little bit of a kink to it, but that's okay. We're going to round that part. So I'm going to do a little loop here. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers. I'm going to do it a little bigger than the last one. And I'm just going to roll it like so. Now, I want to make sure that's really flat. So I grab my flat nose pliers and just sort of crimp it there. Make sure it's nice and flat. And then I want to pull it down and over that one, nice and tight in. And there's our ring. So very simple. They're cute little things and they're adjustable. Because we didn't join anything here, you can make it bigger or smaller, depending on your person that you're giving it to or whoever's wearing it. Okay, so that's our first freestyle. We'll do one more freestyle and then we'll get into the rose, which is one of the favorites. So I'm just cutting another chunk of wire. And this is my wire straightener. So what you do is you put it in like so, and you just pull it and go both directions. And it just really straightens out your wire. It's nylon. You can use the pliers that have the nylon jaw. I find these are easier to hold in your hand, and they do a great job. All right, so first thing, we want to make sure that we have, oh, this one, I'm gonna do a little off center. So I wanna bring my two pieces together and I'm gonna go over here and make my little notch part. Okay. So if you have them off center, you have more wire on the one side to use so you can wrap it around differently. So I have my spacer just so that it's adjustable. And I'm going to wrap it around. So again, I just hold it with my thumb on my mandrel and push this around. I'm not going to bother hammering because you don't really have to. It's just something I like to do every once in a while. Okay, so there's our basic frame. Okay, that's always our basic frame. Let me grab out a couple of beads. Let's use some orange ones today. I don't use orange very often. All right, so I just have a couple of orange glass beads. I'm a little dry today. I don't know why. I have my coffee and my water here, but. Okay, so I'm gonna start by just making my wire a little bit more compliant and pliant, both words, by heating it with my hand. Now, before I get too far, I want to drop on my beads. So these beads are from a package from John Bead, and you just buy this like little baggie, and they have all one color scheme, and they're just a lot of fun. They're all glass beads, and you can see like there's just variants in them. Oops. But they're cute. So I'm going to put all three on just for fun. I have a bag full of rings now from doing these classes. I really have to get out to a show. If I can find the hole in this one. Sorry, guys. There it is. Okay, so I have a tubular, a small circle, a large circle. So about a, let's say a 4 or 5 mil and a 6 or 7 mil. They're a little bit off. Okay, and I'm just gonna, I'll probably trim quite a bit of this wire off because there's a lot more than I want to use. So I'm gonna trim to about here and just do a little spiral just to hold everything in place. So I'm using my Xuron tools, which you know are my favorites. Xuron guarantees their tools for life, so that's why I like to buy them. I'm trying to get a set of chainmail pliers for 10 students, so 20 pair, built up during the pandemic so that when I'm teaching in person again, you'll each have the really good pliers instead of just my regular class set of plain chain nose. So I think I've got enough for about 5 people so far, maybe 6. So I'm getting there. Just waiting for another sale so I can buy more. Okay, so that's all I did on that one. So I brought it up and created a little loop on a little spiral on the end. So this one, I'm going to bring, let's go the other way. So I'm going to take it downward. And again, just use the heat of your hand, warm the metal. That's the important part when doing the freestyle. The freestyle is just warming the metal. So let me get my bin. I will grab out maybe a big one for the bottom part. Yeah, that's nice. Let's see if I can fit this one on because it is curved already. Oh, this one is sideways. Nope. If they're sideways drilled, you really can't use them. Some of these are a little too yellowy orange, so I don't want to use them on this one. Let's see if I can still slide this one on. Yes. Okay. So that's what our ring's going to look like. It's going to be big, but big rings are fashionable. Okay, and I'm just going to finish it with a little spiral right there again. So I'm going to trim a little bit. And I always like to have more wire than I need, because if you get to the end and you're thinking, oh no, what am I going to do now? There's not enough wire. You get frustrated. If you have to trim off a little bit, what's an inch of wire? Okay, so for the spiral, in case you haven't taken the other class, I make a tiny little loop on the end of my wire, and I place the wire into my flat nose pliers. I know my hand's in the way. Flat like so, and I just roll this so that it forms a spiral. So I'm just holding my hand with the pliers really tight and moving my wire. Okay, I'll bring it back to me so it's a little easier for me to do. So the upcoming classes for September, I do have Chainmail Thursdays again. I think that went over well. Everybody seems to like learning all the different weaves. And there are different weaves for that. Okay. There we are. Isn't that a pretty little piece? Now I have larger hands, so I can wear a big ring. It's still not my particular style, but they sell like hotcakes on my table, I'm telling you. The teenagers especially love them. So I think it looks better that way. I would probably wear that one actually. I kind of like it. All right, so let's get on to the rose, which is a favorite. What I use are 2 different colors of wire, and I cut off about a 10-inch piece. So I do have my measuring tape right here, so I'm going to just look at it and get close. And you want the 2 pieces to be the same size. So I'm going to use these 2, the gold and the black, just so you can see the definition better. I don't think it makes as pretty a one as, I think I have purple on my desktop here for Catherine. Catherine only works in purple, by the way. So you want them to be the same length, about 10 inches. And then you do want to straighten these ones because these are kind of softer. All right, so just hold your piece in the center of those three and pull it up. You see how quickly it straightens it? And just remember to do the part where your hand was too. Okay, so there's one. And you'll see on the black one, like you see, like there's all these waves. Watch. They're gone completely and so easily. So if you're going to invest in a wire straightener, I really would suggest this one. It's by Beetlon, I believe. I'm not sure. But it's so much easier to use than the pliers with the jaws. Okay, so I have my two together. This one is non-adjustable, so you really do have to work it so that it is the right size on your mandrel. All right, so I'm going to put a bin under here so that you can see better. Maybe two. That's better. Okay, so I'm just holding it against the back of my mandrel with my thumb, and I'm just going to wrap it around and around. Now, I want to bring it right to where my thumb is so that I have 4 strands for the base of my piece. All right, so now I have it like so. Okay, they're crossing over. I'm going to hold it sideways so you can see better. This is, I'm going to treat this as one, and I'm just going to spin them. So let's see which way you can see it best. Keep my hands out of the way. All right, so I'm just bringing one up and one down. And I'm trying to keep it towards the mandrel. I'm not working outward. I'm trying to keep them both as close to the mandrel as I can. Okay? And remember, if it turns out messy, I'm doing it without looking, okay? And we just do maybe one more turn, like so. And now let's see how it looks. Oh, it turned out well, even though I wasn't looking. Okay, now the end pieces. This is the important part. You bring them here, and we're going to thread them through the center of our ring. We're going to grab them out the other side, and we're just going to make maybe once or twice, depending on the amount of wire you have left, just loops around the side, nice and tight. So you might want to pull them with your pliers. Just hold your ring shape as you're doing it. So like have your thumb in that ring shape. Okay, just like so. And that just holds these four pieces of wire intact. Okay, we're going to do it on the other side. Just push them through the hole. And holding your piece very tightly so it doesn't unravel. Pull those pieces so they're nice and tight. And once more through, if you can. If your wire's too short, don't worry about it. Now this is where bent nose pliers come in handy because you can reach up through easier and grab your wire and pull it down. Both of them. So the bent nose, just grab it so much easier. All right, so now I want to trim off those little bits. I'm not forgetting them. So I get in as close as I can, and I like to trim on the outside edge, the side, because then it's not poking at you when you're wearing the pretty ring. Okay, and trying to see that the bit of gold piece. There was so little to trim, it was hard to see. Now I'm going to get in on these two. Just trying to bring it up enough that I can trim it. It's really tight. There we go. So there's the rose ring. I'm going to do it a couple more times. Don't worry. This is the fun one. This is the one I really love doing. Okay, so we're going to use purple and silver this time. So again, about 10 inches. What I like to do, and this is because I teach with a lot of kids, is I teach them by what objects they have with them at all times. So if I'm having them cut a 10-inch piece, I'll get them to get out an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And I'll say, it's only about that much less than your paper. So then they can put it on their paper and go, okay, so it needs to be cut here. That way the kids don't need, a lot of supplies to be able to do the wire work. Just helps, I find, with kids to not have to, judge everything by a piece of wood. And the less tools I have to take to teach the kids, the better. All right, so now I have my parawire, and I want to straighten these two. So here's my straightener, and you just do one at a time. Don't try and skip it and do two at a time. It won't work because it needs to be right up against those teeth in here. Okay, so there's one, oops, and two. Okay, so we take our mandrel again. If you don't have a mandrel at home, find a marker, a tool that is close to the same size as your finger that you want to have a ring for, and wrap it around there. I've done that before. Okay, so I'm gonna make this one a little bit bigger. And I'm just visualizing where the center is. I'm not measuring. And this one, I'm just gonna bring it once so that we have a bigger rose. So I'm not wrapping it all the way to the back. I only have 2 strands at the back where my thumb is. And then I'm gonna start twisting. I had to see which was on top so I could know which way to twist. So this one is going to go down, and this one's going to go up. And we're just gonna keep doing that. I'm trying very hard to do it so you guys can see it the best. Okay. And again, nah, I'm losing my grip on it if I do it too much towards you, sorry. Okay, let me get it started and then I will show you again. Okay, so I have it so that it's set. And again, I'm just moving this one down and this one up. And I just keep moving them around each other. And I'm going towards the back of the mandrel so that it doesn't go forward. It's more of a flat face. And that should be good. Should I do one more turn? One more turn. All right, so now we take it off the mandrel. And see, it's so much prettier with the purple. I just like it. All right, so we're going to do the same thing and just bend your wire and put it through. And then if you have your, whoops, that was my mandrel, it's heavy. Grab it with your other pliers, your flat nose chainmail pliers, and just pull those wires through. You can do it one at a time if it makes you feel more comfortable with the wire. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the silver one. And if they're not lining up properly, you can grab them and just pull them into the right place and then tighten them. So you're moving your wire. You're the boss of the wire. This is why I like wire more than seed beads, because I can control it. I don't have to worry about getting the beads in the wrong spots. My wire, if I have it in the wrong spot, I move it. All right, and then trim that nice and tight. Okay, these are really good pliers, but if you have a little bit that is sticking out, you can either crimp it in with your pliers like so, or take the very end with your round nose pliers. I can't because it's too tight. and make a little loop just so that it doesn't poke you. Okay, so this one I'm going to do without my pliers just because I can. I'm going to bend it to push it through the ring base. I'm just going to watch the time. Yeah, we're right on time. I've done this class a few times now, so I think I have the time down really well. All right, so we're going to just snip those off. And always hold the end of your wire when you're snipping so it doesn't fly off. I don't know where those wires went. Okay, so that one fits me perfectly. So I was able to judge the size pretty well. A little tip, if it's too big, wrap another little bit of wire around your base. It'll take off that little bit and it'll be the right size. If it's too small, put it on your mandrel again and push it down the mandrel like so. And it stretches the metal just enough that it will probably now fit. No, yeah, it's a little bit bigger. You can get about a ring size difference by pushing it down on the mandrel and just working it down. And you can take off a ring size by wrapping more wire around your base. Okay, so if you have rings that are handmade and they're a little bit bigger, a little bit small, there you go. Now, do you want me to do one more rose? Just nod. Yep, okay. I saw a nod. We'll take the first one I see. All right. I'm going to do black and silver just because it gives a good contrast. I like for you guys to be able to see it as best you can. So even if they don't match, I'm running my mandrel over my rings that I just did. It's like a rolling pin. Even if they don't match for my taste, it shows up better on the camera. So it works. Okay, this time I'm using my artistic wire, and I use either an 18 or a 20 gauge, just whatever happens to be at my hand, because they're pretty close when it comes to this. When I'm doing woven bracelets and stuff, I like the 18 gauge because it does give me that extra little bit. I don't know if these need straightening. No, they're fine. So place your thumb on the back of your mandrel and wrap this around like so. Okay, let me put one more block here. I don't know, I think it needs to be up. We'll put it in front of my face. How's that? Hold it nice and tight, and we're just going to spin these. This is our propeller, and we're just spinning it. And we don't want it to come out too far from the mandrel, because then it's like a real pointy thing, and it doesn't work as well. So we're just spinning it, and we're trying to go as close to the mandrel as we can. And just keep going. One more turn should do it on this one. You don't want to leave too much to tuck because it makes it more difficult. Well, maybe one more spin. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to take it off. And you can see the spinning. Got a little bit of a mess there, but it was just the one sort of twisted off. What I do is I place it on a hard surface and I push it. And now that one's not sticking out anymore. Okay. All right, so wind your leftover bits. I'm going to trim them a little bit so it's easier to get through the ring. And put your thumb on the bottom of your wire. Okay, and now it'll fit through my ring without too much work. Pull them nice and tight, get them really neat and tidy on that side. And again, if they're too far out, grab your pliers and just pull it so it's closest to the rose. Okay, so I'm just going to grab these and really pull them, and that way I can get a better trim. So again, I'm just going to put my finger on the end of my wire so that it doesn't fly everywhere. And I'm going to do the other side. So you can do the base of your ring 2-strand or 4-strand, 6-strand if you really want, whatever you're comfortable with. If you wanted a thicker base, do it 2 times around or 3 times around. It's all up to you. But I really like the rose ones. I find that the younger kids love them. So I tend to make them in small sizes for my table. All of the shows are just canceling even into next year now. So it's going to be a while before I get out to any shows. And there we go. This one's a little big for me. It should go on a different finger. I don't know if it'll fit any other finger. No, but there we are. So you have your free cycle, your free, I keep going free cycle, freestyle, and your rose. So now I want to show you one that I really love. It's a little more delicate looking. It's a more finished look product. So I have all of these. This one's sort of square. Let's see how this one is drilled. If this is side drilled. Okay, so I have a pretty flower. We're gonna make a ring. Now this one I will do probably 3 times again, different stones. I'm going to take my 18 gauge parawire. You can use parawire, you can use artistic wire. They're both really good. I like both. I find the 18 gauge parawire is a little thicker than the 18 gauge artistic wire, which is strange. They're supposed to be the same gauge, but I do find that there is a bit of a difference in the thickness. So I've cut about 10 inches again, maybe 8. Let me measure it for you. 9. 8 or 10, it's 9. And I'm going to straighten it out. I'm going to take my time because I want this one to be nice and straight. So this is one that you can do with an actual more expensive gemstone. I'm just noticing my glasses are all crooked here. These are just readers from the drugstore. I find they're better for me to use when I'm teaching. So every once in a while I look and they're like all wonky. All right, so this one you can use a good gemstone and silver wire, like sterling, and make yourself a beautiful handmade ring. All right, bring my bins back over. Move my piece as I'm doing that. Okay. I'm gonna put it on, hold it with my thumb, and just bring it around. Now I'm not even crisscrossing them. I'm just doing it. Oops, I've got it off center there. I just want to readjust. I wasn't paying attention to my wire. Okay, so I have them pretty much even. So I just have it rounded. Okay, we're going to work on the mandrel. So I may or may not be able to hold it up like this the whole time. So this piece, the stone, I'm just going to put on here. Sorry guys, have to move it so I can actually see what I'm doing. Oh, there it is. The hole is in one of the crevices of the flower, so you don't see it very easily. All right, so I have that in, and I'm just going to put it across my ring. Okay, and I'm going to bring that piece over to that side. Now, all right, now what you want to do, you want to bring it around the back so that it's around the back 3 times. Okay, it's separated right now, but we're going to bring them all together nice and neatly. Okay, now this piece you bring down and around to that side. This piece you bring up and around to this side. I'm going to take it off and I will show you. I'm going to sort of straighten it out a little bit by hand. This is what it looks like so far. Okay, we're going to take this and just, because we couldn't do that when it was on the mandrel, we're going to move it right under the stone. And then this side, we're going to do the same thing. So we just have our ring, and then the pieces come up the sides and under the stone. Okay, and then you're going to do the same setup. You're just going to wrap this little end piece through and around a couple of times. I'll grab my pliers. Go. And just make sure it's nice and tight and nice and neat. Try and get your wire to go beside each other each and every time. Okay. I'm going to trim it as I'm going. Now with these pliers, they have two sides. So this is your flush cutter and this is your V cutter. See how they're shaped? So if you want a flush straight cut, you use this side. And you get it in as close as you can and you snip. Okay. And then you're going to do the same on this side. Wrap it around, and with this ring, I would suggest pulling it with your pliers, getting it nice and tight, bringing your wire up towards the face of your stone. I'm just going to really manipulate it. There we go. And wrap it around. Now, please remember that these do not turn out as perfect as what I normally do because I'm holding it so far away from me. But, okay. So there is your little flower. You can't see the definition of the stone really well on this camera. Sorry. Let me try and get it up. Bring it out. No, it's not picking up. It's all carved. It's really pretty. So that's how you do that. I will show you again, but with a simpler stone. Just going to use an oval. Actually, I might have a black oval, and then it'll be easier for you to see. All kinds of shapes here. No, no black ovals. I have a blue.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Where do you exactly snip the wire? Is it when you bring it over the top of the band?
I like to snip on the side, like the outer side.
Okay.
That way it's not...
It's when you brought it up over?
Yeah, so I wrap it around the base of my ring once, twice, and then I trim it over here. But I always pull it so that it's in the right angle. So if I want if I'm trimming on this side, I pull my wire so it's going straight out this way before I trim it.
Right.
If I trimmed it when it was going out this way, the point would be pointing out that way.
Sure.
If I do it that way, it's pointing that way. Okay.
Great.
Good question. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to use this little guy. I love these little pieces. They make beautiful rings. And I'll stick with the silver. So I'm going to go 20 gauge on this one. And I'm going to give myself a little bit extra wire just to play with. So I'm doing about a 12-inch piece. This one I'm going to wrap around the ring a couple of times. And again, this big spool I don't need to straighten. So I want it to be right up about here. I find when I'm making them, they end up a lot bigger than what I start with. So if you're a size 10, make it on a size 7 because it will slide down your mandrel while you're doing it. Okay, so I'm going to have it so that one piece is longer than the other, just to accommodate this oval shape. So I slide it on here. Come on. I know this fits on here. I've done it enough times. It's giving me a hard time. Let me just put the mandrel down and work this on. There we go. Okay, so I have my wire wrapped around my mandrel twice, and I'm just going to lay my my stone nice and flat on the front of my piece. Okay. And I'm going to bring this one over. And this time I'm going to wrap it around under the stone twice. I left myself enough wire. Let me put it back on the mandrel so I have two hands to show you. All right, so I want this piece to come under the stone and back. And I want this one to go under the, oops. Sorry, I have to wrap it around one more time to get that one because that's where the stone was attached to. So under and up. So from the front, all we'll see is the stone. Oops. But from the back, I'm just tightening a little bit. From the back, we would see the wires going under the stone. Okay. And then we're just going to, you know, I have quite a bit of wire left. I'm going to wrap it once more around the stone. And this helps keep it in check so it stays in place. And then I'm going to wrap those leftover bits around the base, just like we do with all the rest. So if you wanted to get, if you have a nice stone and it's drilled, then you can do it this way to create a ring. I think we have enough time. Yeah, I'm gonna try to show you how to wire wrap a stone that isn't drilled into a ring, but I have kind of big pieces here, so we'll see what it turns out like. I don't normally do them, but I'm just pulling this so it's nice and tight and snug and pretty. And that one didn't even need to be trimmed. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. Now I want to make sure that the wire that I'm wrapping around stays under the face of my stone. I don't want it, my bead, I don't want it to show. So just manipulate your wire a little bit, make sure that it's not showing. And that one did need to be trimmed because I'm feeling it now that I'm working. Okay. And push your wire up towards your stone again and keep wrapping. Just do it a couple of times just to hold it all in place. And I'm going to grab my pliers and pull it really hard just to get it nice and tight. And then point it the way you want it to go and trim it. So Catherine, if you watch here, I have it going that way. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim it as close to the ring base as I can. See my view here? Yeah, just like so. Okay, and there is a tiny little bit there. So you just take your flat nose and scrunch it a little bit and you won't even feel it. This one I can feel, I can't see it. So I'm just going to scrunch a little. This one is sticking out. So when it sticks out a little bit too much, if you can grab the end, just grab it and pull it in the same direction it was supposed to be going, and it'll be done. And there we are. That one is such a pretty little ring. It's a simple design, but depending on the stone or the piece of glass that you have, it makes it look like a store-bought ring, in my opinion. Okay, so we want to try one, and this is an experiment for me. These are my rose quartz pieces that I use for the wire wrap stones. You know, see if I can find one that's not too big. This one's fairly flat, so I'm going to check it, see if there's a smaller. Okay, I think I have a winner here. This one is not too big, a lot bigger than I would normally wear, although it's pretty close to my one ring that I have. And I'm going to try to wire wrap it onto a ring base. So I'm going to use my 20 gauge wire because that's what I use for my wire wrapping. And I'm going to cut myself a decent long piece, maybe 20 inches. And I want my cutter, not my pliers. Okay, so that's probably about, oh, that's probably about 24 inches. All right, so this is an experiment. You get to see me possibly fail. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it around our base just a couple of times, and don't worry if it's not even coming out, but we're not gonna worry about that. Okay, so I just have my simple base, and I think I'm gonna run it through a couple of times just to give myself a little more stability to work with. So I'm gonna run it through just once or twice just to give myself a little bit stronger base to work with when I'm designing this piece. All right, so I'm gonna pull it. I like to work the metal as I go so that it knows which way I want it to move. There we go, nice and tight. I'm gonna do it on this side as well. So just start bringing it through and then move the metal to where you want it and tug. And do that twice, moving the metal. Okay, so I have a nice firm ring base now. That ring base isn't moving, so that gives me a little bit more ability to manipulate my wire around this stone base. So I want it to go like this on the base. So I'm gonna have to hold it somewhat close to me. I'm gonna wrap it around here once, around the top part, and trying to hold everything together. And then I'm gonna wrap it around, whoops, I want that stone, okay. And I'm gonna wrap it around the bottom part once. It's slippery. Okay, I have to do it close to my body so I have the ability to hold it. So I just have it wrapped around like so, okay? I'm gonna bring both of them to the back, one on either side, trying to hold everything in place. So I'm crisscrossing the whole time. So if it comes from the top on the right, it goes to the bottom at the left. Okay, so I'm crisscrossing. Now I'm going to try to twist them at the back of the stone. So I have it wrapped around. There's my base. And I'm going to bring one through the base just to lock it in even more. Let's get it nice and close. Don't worry if it falls out. It can fall out a dozen times until you start tightening it. And then I'm going to twist these two together. Now at this point, I'm going to try to get my ring to stay in the base. So that means taking my round nose pliers and giving those wires a little zigzag, just like we do with the wire wrapped stones. And we just place it straight on the face of the stone. Excuse me, sorry about that. My phone started to ring beside me. And we're just gonna bring this piece over the edge. I'm gonna twist it at the back. Oh, it's starting to hold. And twist it at the front, the opposite way. Oh, it's lovely. It's actually working, guys. Okay, and I'm just twisting these wires to get them to stay in place and to hold the stone really tight. So our experiment is good. So let's see this one. Okay, so that's what I have right now. So it's basically held there. It's not moving. I want to bring one more around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it through here, through this piece, and this piece. So let me get it in and then I will show you. And this is just playing with wire. This is what I like to do. I just grab wire and stones and play. And I'm just going to lift this wire up a tiny bit and slide that through. I might need my pliers to do it. Hold on. So I'm just lifting this piece off of the front of the stone a tiny bit because I had it way too tight for me to get that wire under. And when you're doing it, remember to push your wire and tell it where to go. So you're just working it through that loop. It doesn't always want to go, so you just go back and try some more. Okay, so I have it through this wire. I'm going to push that one back down. And I'm going to take it and through this bottom wire, which is very loose, so it'll go through there easily. Oops. Oh, it was in there so well too. Let's see if I can slide it back in. Thought I had it. There we go. Okay. So let me see if I can still do it. Once it falls out, at that point, it's kind of a lost cause, but I'll see. Okay, so I have a lot more wire across the front of my stone than I normally would use, but just gonna pull this through and twist these two wires at the back really, really tight. Okay. So let me tighten these two up and I'll trim them and then you can see it. And any questions, ladies? You know, just pop in, ask any questions you have. And it doesn't have to be about this class, as you know. I answer any questions about any class. And there's my ring. It's a little lopsided. Kind of went off on an angle, but you can use, yes.
Where do you usually sell? Like, where do you normally go, like the art shows?
I don't drive, so I do all Scarborough, Toronto. I usually have a booth at Scarborough U of T, which they have a market every other Wednesday during the fall and winter. I did their summer show outside for one summer, but it was every week and it was a little bit more than I wanted to put in. Like, I didn't want to be tied down the whole summer. So I did it 1 year, but I didn't want to do it again. I do a lot of the Christmas shows. I used to do about 50 shows a year.
Wow.
Yeah. But I don't do that many anymore because I'm teaching so much, and teaching is what I love the most.
Right.
But if I'm making this much product doing the classes, I have to have somewhere to get rid of it. When I teach at libraries or I teach in person, I usually give the host the piece that I was making as a little gift. So, but I do have my online store on Facebook.
Okay.
And there's a contest on my Facebook page, Lori's Craft Classes, for a free class, in-person class in my studio when all this is all over. So go enter. Catherine, you haven't entered yet. I know Catherine's on my Facebook, or sorry, the other Catherine, not. Okay, so I quite like this ring. It turned out well. A little more wire around the front than I normally like, but it's held and it's not going anywhere now. I've got it nice and tight. And I may try and manipulate it so it's a little bit straighter, but you can wrap anything. There we go. It's a little hard to see because it's rose quartz and I'm so pale. All right. Any other questions, ladies? Okay, enjoy the video. Go over it a few times. If you have any questions, you can email me. You can even phone me. My number's on my Facebook page. So it's loripoirier@hotmail.com. No dots, no dashes, no nothing.